and here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Doubling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect flow.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
We did have an observation.
Equalize.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers can fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my God.
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
It's 20 to 11 in the morning, it's daytime, and there is a Falcon 9 vertical at Space Launch Complex 40 getting ready to launch some Starlink satellites. That's not something that happens very often these days. It's a nice time of day. Starlink, and of course, NSF is here to cover it. My name's Ryan Caton. Thank you very much for joining us live from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, or technically Kennedy Space Center, looking over towards the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, because we are just over 56 minutes away from the launch of Starlink 1039. Fingers crossed that we see this rocket and another batch of Starlinks launch into space today. But it's not just my voice you'll be hearing, because alongside me, Sawyer Rosenstein in the studio. How you doing, Sawyer?
I'm doing fantastic. It is weird that it is light out for a Starlink. I can't say this isn't your ordinary late night Starlink, but you know there's always some fun with it. So say with me, chat, this is not your ordinary Starlink. And part of that is the daylight, and we'll get into some other fun numbers as we go.
Absolutely. Also joining us is Alex to bring us all of the Falcon 9 knowledge and facts.
Yeah, I guess I was. It was a while ago that we were not together on stream, right? Right.
Yeah, this time we are helpfully divided by hundreds of miles.
Yeah, sure.
Dare I say, today's event may be slightly less spectacular, but it's
true.
a rocket launch nonetheless. So we're excited for a rocket launch. And of course, if you have any questions for us, do tag us in chat, and we can answer those over the next hour. Also in the field, we have Jerry and Dee, who are bringing us some wonderful views from the Space Coast as we count down towards launch in under 55 minutes from now. First of all, Alex, I'll toss this question over to you, as we always do, to open up the stream. What on earth is going to happen today? What are we seeing? What's on board? What's the rocket? Where's it going? All of the things.
Yeah, so today we're hopefully going to see a Falcon 9 launch. It's been a while since the last one, right? No, I'm joking. It's actually been very recently that we saw another Falcon 9 launch. And of course, this is a Starlink launch. As you can see down there in the ticker, it's going to be launching 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. Now, these are the same sort of that we've been seeing launch for few years already, 3 or 4 years in the past. And this in particular, they are being launched into a 53-degree inclination orbit. These ones are going northeast. So when you see this launch, if you are out there, make sure to take that into account for your viewing and planning for this launch. It's going to head out northeast. And then the first stage will be returning to the drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas. It's on its 30th flight. Probably talk about that a little bit later into the show. But one of the other things as well is the second stage will get into orbit first and then do another circularization burn around 50 or so minutes after launch. And after that, about 10 minutes later, the satellites will separate, and hopefully in just a few more weeks, they'll enter operational orbits. But yeah, that's where the second stage will obviously, after the satellites separate, the second stage will then be able to do another burn. That burn will be for disposal of the second stage. It will be deorbiting over, basically like a mix in between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, I guess. It's like south of Australia, as you can see there. And so that is the re-entry for the second stage. But yeah, very normal sort of Starlink. The only odd thing for today, as we're mentioning, earlier is that it's in daylight. It's a morning launch. Huh.
It's a rare beast these days. And there you go, behind the scenes, looking on as we continue to count down from the beautiful. Sawyer, I was going to say it's a freshly mowed press site. I don't know how quick the grass grows at the press site. Do you know how often they mow the grass at the press site at the Kennedy Space Center complex?
I'll be honest, it doesn't feel like it's very often. The grass can sometimes get pretty high up, but it actually looks pretty good at the moment. But yeah, don't be deceived. It is deeper than it seems, and also in Florida, there are those little plants that have the prickly ends that stick to your bottom of your pants. There's a lot of those in the area too. So it's a mini minefield of little prickly plants.
If you want us to answer some questions which are not related to how often the grass is mowed at the Kennedy Space Center press site, do tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight, at NSF. You don't have to do a super chat or anything like that. Just put it in normal chat and it brings it into the queue and we can do our best at answering them. First of all, Patrick is asking, is Jerry flying a drone today? I'm happy to report Jerry is not flying a drone and therefore this launch is expected to go off without an issue. Fingers crossed. Let's not talk too soon, but Falcon 9 is a rather reliable vehicle these days. And along those lines, Benny is stating, not a question, but stating, if successful, this is going to be the 326th consecutive success of a Falcon 9, a new record. Is that true, Alex?
I actually put that out in chat back. It will be the 328th. And the record right now is 335. So it will still be, I'm sure maybe they didn't count Falcon Heavy, perhaps. Might be the discrepancy here in between. But yeah, if we count like the Falcon family, then that will be 328th since the last failure. And the record was 335 for the previous streak of successful launches. But yeah, I guess I'll have to split it between Falcon Heavy and Falcon 9 to make everyone happy.
Well, technically, Falcon Heavy center core boosters are slightly different to Falcon 9 boosters. So
yeah,
if you launch a Falcon Heavy, technically you could have a Falcon Heavy success and 2 Falcon 9 successes, I guess, because it's 2 Falcon 9 boosters. Does that count?
I guess.
We'll see. Another SpaceX-related question, slightly different, of course, on the Starship topic, which we are very happy to talk about on these streams as well. Dinesh is asking, is there any update about Starship on Artemis 3? If there is an update, I'd like to know what it is, because as far as I'm aware, we haven't seen anything for a very, very long time.
I mean, we had the render like a year ago of what the interior was going to look like. There was the old photos from a couple of years before of them testing the elevator concept for when they actually do go down to the surface. But yeah, at this point, it's basically we're waiting for SpaceX to show us something. NASA is still proceeding as if they will have both Blue Moon Mark 1.5 as well as a SpaceX Starship vehicle to rendezvous and do testing with during the Artemis 3 mission in Earth orbit. Whether that's still going to happen mid next year as planned, or whether it gets pushed while we wait for both vehicles to come online, we don't know. But yeah, SpaceX, please update us on that. We would appreciate it.
Absolutely. It feels like the one thing that is going to be so critical to landing boots back on the moon, and yet the one thing that we don't hear anything about is the Starship human landing system. Of course, we get the updates around Starship itself, and of course we get those flight tests. Fingers crossed, the next one coming up maybe next week or within the next few weeks. But the actual HLS variant itself of Starship is not something we have seen or properly heard about for a very long time at this point. And it's, as a spaceflight enthusiast, it is slightly agitating, especially when, on the other side of the equation, you have Blue Origin, who are like, hey, look at our Blue Moon lander, which we are getting ready to fly, if they can get a launch pad to launch their rocket from, to put the lander on top of.
Yeah, SpaceX has the launch pad without the vehicle, and Blue has the vehicle without the launch pad.
That is true. That is true. Rebuild of Launch Complex 36 continues as we speak. Let's see here. Dun Coding is asking, when the Starlink constellation reaches full capacity, how many satellites will there be? Alex, I'm not sure. I think there was probably multiple ways you can measure capacity, because I guess you could measure it by total number of satellites, but there's also the actual amount of bandwidth capacity, because the new Starlink V3s, which will fingers crossed be flying on the next Starship flight, they're physically much larger and they can support much more bandwidth than the current Starlinks, which we're going to be seeing launching in fingers crossed 47.5 minutes.
Yeah, and there's also there's the capacity, but also the coverage, because the thing of being in low Earth orbit, of course, the satellites are zooming by very quickly, basically 7.5 kilometers per second. I think it's like 5 miles per second, right? Like they're zooming by very quickly. So one single satellite is maybe above you for 5 minutes. That means in order to cover the entire sky, you probably need like a couple of hundred of those every single time above you to not have any sort of weird oddities there on your signal. And of course, the more that you have above you, the better connectivity and everything that you'll have, which means, ironically, with version 3, even though it is much more capable, in order to have like a smooth and actual good coverage, like at least a sizable amount of them need to be already in orbit for you to notice that there's at least an increase in that connectivity and everything, because there needs to be a density, right? If you know what I mean here, there needs to be more of them that your antenna can see, basically. And so, for example, Elon recently mentioned that they need at least 1,000 of those in order to at least notice that increase in the performance and whatnot of the satellite constellation, just because of that. I will say though, that when is probably wrong. I don't think there's a when here. I really don't think it will ever reach full capacity, in the sense that it will keep being improved every single time, even before it reaches anywhere close to the sort of their desired speeds or coverage or things like that. And so I mean, on paper, the number of satellites that they are allowed to launch right now is something along the lines of like 17,000 or so for the this second constellation, the V2 mini satellites. The original constellation, it's also like 4,400 of those. They want a third constellation as well, which supposedly it'll have 100,000 satellites. We'll see if all of them get approved. But yeah, eventually just do the numbers and it's something like close to 150,000 among all three, when you add up all three constellations together. And they're replenishing the old constellation, by the way. They have not abandoned that. They have renewed, basically deorbiting the old V1 satellites and renewing them by the V2 minis. Most of the Vandenberg satellite launches that we've seen, for example, have been for that older constellation. But yeah, I mean, there's many corners. It's like a big tesseract or something like that in many dimensions, if you will, and there's many corners to it, many sides to look at this whole problem. But yeah, I will say perhaps not when, but maybe an if there in that question. I would say I don't think it'll reach full capacity at all. Just think that there's going to be thousands of them in space at all times.
And we had a very similar question along those lines from Wow Space Banana, who was asking how often do they deorbit Starlink satellites versus how many are in orbit currently and how many are being added at what rate? So are they, like, if we're going to talk about, like, is it a 1-to-1 or is it like for every satellite that deorbits, they launch 2 satellites? Like, how does that play out in the current V2 mini era of Starlink? Alex.
Oh, for me, okay. Yeah, I thought you were calling up on Sawyer. No, so right now, yeah, it's okay. I got it. But yeah, right now they are launching more than they deorbit. But that doesn't mean that they don't deorbit the old ones. As I said, they're replacing, especially in the polar orbits. So probably a bit of a side note here. When I mentioned the different generations of constellations, is because the generation of constellations, and by constellation I mean like the range of orbits, altitudes, and shells that they can use, right? They are different than the generation of the satellite. So, for example, to the first generation constellation, they launched V1 and V1.5 satellites. For the second generation constellation, they started actually with the V1.5 satellites, and then they moved into the V2 minis. Now, the first constellation, all of those old orbits, the one that they have been looking most in terms of replacing have been the polar orbits, because those are the only ones that they are allowed, at least on the Starlink satellite system, basically on the first generation of their satellite constellation. Those orbits were from the first batch that we saw launching, right? And so when you see any of these that are being launched from Vandenberg, like Group 17 or Group 15, all of those are replacing the old V1 satellites. And so right now, I cannot tell you an actual number, but I do know that they're launching more than the orbit. And that's good because it means while they're still getting all of those new satellites into their operational orbit, it takes time for that to happen, right? Between checkouts and the fact that they use a low thrust thruster, like the ion thrusters that they use on Starlinks. So it takes a while, right? And so you want to have still those older ones for a little longer until the new ones come online. And then when they come online, then you the old ones. I would expect though, as we transition into Starship operations, right? Starship launching Starlinks, that we may see more of the older ones of the older generation basically being deorbited at a faster rate than they launch the new satellites. But yeah, and I would, I predict that the V2 minis in particular, they're going to be up there for a long, long time. They launched thousands and thousands of them, way more than the V1 satellites. So it's going to take a while until the V3s, they have enough coverage, as I told before, to be able to fully replace those. So I would expect that to also be true in the future once Starship comes online and starts, hopefully in the next flight or two, maybe, those Starlink operations. So we'll see.
Speaking of Starship, our good friend Ship 40 has been bobbing around in the Indian Ocean. Not in the kindest of conditions. There it is on your screen. Steelers fan is asking, what is our current status on Starboat? Any updates on a potential ship coming to get it? And Gabriel GG is asking, what are the chances of SpaceX actually bringing Ship 40 to Starbase from Christmas Island? Sawyer, I will send these over to you.
I mean, they said they want to bring it back to Starbase. You could see they managed to have it kind of drift and tow at a very slow rate, all the way from its landing spot in the Indian Ocean now to Christmas Island, which is over near Indonesia, near Java. That's quite a distance already that it's traveled in under a month. And it seems like now they're going to take a couple weeks and figure out their exact plan of getting this back to Starbase. I know there's a couple of vessels that have been tracked where they basically are aiming to bring it towards Christmas Island that are heavy lift barges. We'll see if they end up using those, and we'll see what they use to get it back, because then you're either going to have to go around and go through the Panama Canal to get it to Starbase, or you're going to have to go all the way around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa and come back. Whatever it is not a quick endeavor to get this vehicle back. So I think they're going to be able to do it. This is just something that they didn't really plan for and are now trying to scramble through, and I wonder if we get on Flight 14 some changes to the landing profile to basically try and make sure that it gets destroyed so they don't have to deal with this problem in the next flight.
I'm sure if they wanted it destroyed, they wouldn't have any problems maybe making a few holes in the hull. It's just that it seems like they really want it back instead. So in the future, if they, for whatever reason, it's intact, I think if they have already the data and they don't need it, they probably just, blow a few holes and be done with it, instead of having to tug it anywhere.
Yeah, because we did have Elon posting early this morning at like 1 a.m. Eastern that they'll probably catch the ship within the tower in a few months, which makes it sound like not on Flight 14. So we'll see what they end up doing with the ship after Flight 14, if we see Starboat 2.0, or if they maybe change the trajectory now to make sure that they don't have to deal with all of these logistics again.
Yeah.
It was certainly an interesting post. I mean, I'm not going to say that we were expecting a ship catch attempt on this upcoming flight, but I mean, the language coming from Elon earlier was certainly kind of leaning in that direction in a positive manner. I mean, he says there, if there had been a tower out at sea where we practiced landing the ship, it would have been caught. So, I mean, judging by that statement there, Ship 40 clearly did a very good job. Also, it survived the tip over, which I'm still absolutely amazed by, a month on from that flight. Still, absolutely, I'm equally surprised now as I was, the second we saw that thing not explode on stream, on the launch stream. But Alex, let's assume that they decide not to go for a ship catch attempt. What do you think could be a flight profile we see? Do you think they could still, use this flight as an orbital flight test, the first actual OFT for Starship, or do you think they could do a final suborbital flight to the Indian Ocean? Could they do like a specific ocean? Pacific Ocean is what I'm trying to say. Splashdown, like originally they were trying to do off Hawaii. Like, what do you think they could do? Because it just feels like doing the same thing again would just be kind of like a pointless repeat of something I've already done, several times at this point.
I mean, it seems to me that at the very least, the orbital flight might happen because he was very confident. So if you remember the earnings call earlier this month, he was very confident on that. He didn't hedge sort of in the part about catching the ship, but he did say the next flight is going to be, an operational flight of Starlink satellites, of the V3 satellites. So that, I believe, is still on the cards, right? And in play here, but it's definitely looking like perhaps a catch might not happen. And trust me, I was like the very first person that on the Flight 13 stream after the flight happened, I was like, they have to catch it. Like, it's gotta be a catch. It's gotta be a catch. And I was very happy when everything was pointing to that. But like, if he says maybe a few more months, like maybe Flight 15, who knows, right? Like, whenever it happens, it happens. They want to take their time. They want to have maybe another splashdown. Cool, take it, right? Like, everything so that they have everything lined up properly. Maybe it's regulatory. Like, he was also mentioning that on the earnings call, that they need the approval from the FAA and all that stuff. So because of that, I will say, I know a few people have mentioned, oh, maybe they bring it to a splashdown in the Gulf, but you have all the risks and none of the glory. In the sense that you have all the risks of re-entering overpopulated areas, but not actually catching the ship. You know what I mean, right? Like, if you're going to go that whole thing of doing the re-entry over people, might as well just catch it as well. So I think it's going to be over an ocean. Maybe it's again the Indian Ocean after a few orbits. If the trajectories line up and whatnot, might be the Pacific Ocean. It's a little bit bigger in that sense, and they have a big sort of contingency splashdown area for the ship as well in that zone, especially near Hawaii or close to like off the coast of Chile as well. They have another area there. So there's many different places where they can go into orbit, and then after a few orbits, if everything lines up, they can then deorbit the ship and do a splashdown in the ocean. I don't think it's going to be coming back all the way to the Gulf or anything like that for the reasons that I just said, that it's all the risk, but not the glory. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
We will see indeed. As always, do tag us with your questions at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF. You don't have to do some super chats, but we have gotten some super chats, so I'm going to thank this support. Fez on the Rise kicking things off. Daytime Starlink, what madness is this? Thank you very much for your support. That is greatly appreciated. And of course, Bideford is in chat with a $50 super. As always, Bideford, always in chat, always supporting the streams. And we are very, very grateful to your support as well. And fingers crossed it is a great day, because we are 34 minutes and 10 seconds away from the current predicted T0 time. Sawyer, we have just gone beyond the point of where the launch director should have verified go for propellant load. Of course, we don't know that for certain just yet. SpaceX, unfortunately, isn't very tweety with those kinds of things with your bog standard Starlink missions these days. But let's assume that we are on track for fueling. What are some of the things we should be seeing over the next few minutes?
Yeah, so hopefully within the next 1 to 2 minutes, we should see that frost forming at the base of Falcon 9. So keep an eye out right by the tree line there. If you see frost chat, you know what to do. Type it in. But that would mean that right now, if they are loading prop, there will be the liquid oxygen, the LOX, and the RP1, the rocket propellant 1, the refined kerosene, both of those loading up into stage 1. Meanwhile, stage 2 begins with just the warmer RP1, and that will continue until stage 2 is loaded up, which will be about 20 minutes and 20 seconds to go before launch. That is when they will start chilling down the lines to get ready to load the even colder, the super chilled liquid oxygen onto stage 2. That's also what we call the 20-minute vent, aka the best vent. And hopefully that will then signify the start of second stage LOX load at about 16 minutes to go when that disappears. And if all goes well, we should be under 33 minutes away from launch. And a reminder with Falcon 9, once they begin fueling, they are committed to that T0. So if fueling is indeed underway, then they are absolutely targeting the 11:38:44 T0 and are basically stuck with it.
Indeed. So there you go. That is the full countdown on the left-hand side. We will keep up to date with that as we progress through the next 32 minutes or so. I am very cognizant of the heat haze today. It is, a little bit hazy, a little bit tricky to see. And this is pretty much the best view you can get. This is as close as you can get for these kinds of missions, these Starlink missions from Space Launch Complex 40. So this is the best you're going to get today, unfortunately. The heat haze, not ideal, but unfortunately, the Florida weather is something we cannot control. Speaking of the Florida weather, what's this for a segue? Fantastic segue. I'm very proud of that one. Matthew Carpenter is asking, what is the percentage of go? And I'm going to assume they're asking about the weather. And I believe we can now go live to the field. D Wise is with us in the field. How is the weather looking with the Mark 1? It's not really the eyeballs. How does it feel? How does it feel, D?
Well, right now it is very clear out. I mean, it is quite warm out here, but in terms of anything that could cause a violation of weather constraints, it is very clear at the moment. But we are in Florida, and it is the summer. So as we get towards later in the window, it would be up to a 60% probability of violation based on cumulus clouds, anvil clouds, and the surface electric fields. But hopefully we get all the good words from SpaceX that they are targeting the start of the window, because the weather right now and for the start is a lot better with only a 20% probability of violation. And I mean, you can see it in the air. It is very warm, but it is blue skies and only some distant clouds off to the southwest currently.
Absolutely. And judging by the forecast, fingers crossed this beginning of the window is when we will actually see the launch take place. The window actually opens in about 10 minutes' time. But during the night/morning, they pushed the mission T0 time just by a few minutes into the opening part of the window. So it's now 38 minutes and 44 seconds past the hour precisely. But still standing by for confirmation they are into propellant load, because, of course, when they are loading propellants, that means we are locked in for that specific T0 with Falcon because of the super chill propellants that they use. D, thank you very much for the weather update. Enjoy the wonderful Florida weather, said no one ever.
Hey, it is sunny and it is warm. It could certainly be a lot worse. What day in the summer don't you expect the afternoon showers? But this is a brilliantly beautiful day for a launch, right now at least.
Exactly. Opinions may change within the next 5 minutes, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. 29 minutes and 15 seconds left to go in the countdown, continuing to count down towards the launch of Starlink Group 10-39 from Slick 40 on Florida's Space Coast. Let's look through here for some more questions. Ninja Guy Dan is asking, does SpaceX ever record footage from the deorbit and passivation maneuver on the Falcon 9 upper stages? It would be great to see at least one of those before the Falcon 9 fully retires someday. Alex, I'm going to assume they probably do record it, but I'm not sure they will ever release said recording.
Ironically, there was a live stream of one, at least the deorbit burn in this case, for a mission where the payload had to be released after the orbit. And that was, I don't remember exactly the mission, but I do know the payload was actually from Atmos. You remember these people that they had the inflatable re-entry spacecraft, right? And so they had to wait until the second stage. I think it was like a rideshare mission where it was, I don't remember exactly, maybe Bandwagon 2? I think it's coming to me right now. I think it was Bandwagon 2. where the rideshare mission, basically they deployed all of the satellites, and the last one was the Atmos thing, and they had coverage, at least I think, of the orbit burn, but they did not show the deployment for whatever reason. It was shown after. It was a weird thing. They did post like the times and everything for that. I do remember seeing at least a few other instances where they kept the feed for a little bit longer, and we ended up seeing the orbit burn of those missions, but never the re-entry or anything like that. They don't get to that point. And I assume that the second stage doesn't have any thermal protection system or anything like that, so it just burns up, and so the satellite, basically the signal and whatever just gets lost within less than a minute or something like that. If you watched Flight 9, Starship Flight 9, remember that? We lost the signal pretty much a few minutes after re-entry started. That ship held on quite longer than I thought, but still, we lost it rather quickly.
Indeed. We have another question here from ResistoJet, who's asking, what is the quickest turnaround for a booster thus far? I see B1078, which is, of course, the booster for today's mission. It has a turnaround time of 58 days, 4 hours, 45 minutes, and 44 seconds. I don't know off the top of my head exactly what the record is, but I know for a fact that it is much faster than 58 days, 4 hours, 45 minutes, and 44 seconds. Is it like just over a week or something?
Yeah, 9 days, 3 hours, 39 minutes, and 28 seconds. And that was B1088, so 10 numbers after this one, between its third flight and its fourth flight. But it was sort of cheating because that was out of Vandenberg, and it was also 2 return to launch site, actually 3 return to launch site landings in a row. That was Transporter 12, then they launched SpaceX and Punch from NASA, and then after that they did a Starshield launch with NROL 57. So it was between the launch of the SpaceX and Punch mission and NROL 57. And yeah, they were all 3 in a row RTLSs, so they had the booster back basically right away. So it was easy to do 9 days instead of having to go out with a drone ship. Don't get me wrong, they still did quite a fast turnaround the next flight after that, with 13 days, 18 hours, 13 minutes, and 10 seconds on this very same booster I was saying, B1088, also from Vandenberg. And that was a drone ship landing in that case. But yeah, it's a bit of a cheat, I guess, to have the booster back and not have to tow it on the drone ship.
Yeah. Indeed. ResistoJet is also asking, when is the next double Falcon 9 booster return to landing site? That is a beautiful question. Of course, that would be for a Falcon Heavy launch, Sawyer. And I think we have a pretty high-profile Falcon Heavy mission just around the corner.
We sure do. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope is set to launch about 10 days from now. August 30th is the no earlier than date for the next Falcon Heavy launch. It's wild that we went from no Falcon Heavies since 2024 to now actually having 2 of them in the same year again, finally, with the potential of 1 more later in the year, maybe. We'll see. But for sure, we've got Nancy Grace Roman, and that is set to launch in just a couple of days. And you can see there, it's an early morning launch, despite the fact that it's British time. It's about 7:26 in the morning here in Florida.
You can tell that Jake Egan is producing today's show due to the fact that next spaceflight is localizing to BST. Something that is kind of hard to get your head around is that technically Starship has launched more than Falcon Heavy has, because this will be Falcon Heavy's 13th mission, and Starship has, of course, launched 13 times so far, and it's probably going to be launching for a 14th time around the same time that Nancy Grace is going to be launching as well. So that's a little fun fact for you there on just how rare Falcon Heavy launches actually are. And also pretty
this
cool.
will be, I believe, today's launch is the 101st launch for SpaceX of the year, if you count Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, and Starship.
Yeah,
so
there we go.
All
the stats.
Yeah, wonder who compiled those. But yeah, 101st launch of the year for SpaceX and 10th of the month. And also number 199 for all of the planet. which is crazy. Also, considering how many new companies this year have actually recovered parts of their vehicle, with 2 Chinese companies now, one with a catch, one with a landing, with Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy. It's pretty wild of how far we've come this year in spaceflight in terms of number of launches and just reusability finally becoming the norm too.
Don't forget New Glenn. New Glenn has also landed once this year.
Oh yeah, that was
it
this
also-
year. I
it's-
keep forgetting when NG4 was.
Yep, it's done some other things this year as well. But we can we can just focus on the wonderful landing, the reflight of Never Tell Me the Odds. Never tell me the odds of rebuilding your launch pad and returning to flight before the end of the year. Let's see. More questions. Wilbo Baggins is asking, have they named the new moon crater yet? This is, of course, referring to the Falcon 9 second stage that impacted the moon not that long ago. We got some new imagery from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter showing the crater, and it's a pretty sizable impact there, along with all the other craters. So, big deal. Another crater is on the surface of the moon, Fork Founding Kitchen. Alex, I don't believe there has actually been a proper name attached to this crater, but of course those things would need to go through various different political and astronomical union body things, I'm sure, to get a name actually attached to an artificial. I don't even know if there are artificial craters that have been named, if there's even precedent for such a thing.
I really have no idea how those get named. If it is, first come, first serve sort of thing, right? In which case, I guess the Koreans get to do that because they got the Nuri to photograph that impact site. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe at some point in the future it'll get a name or something. The Elon crater.
We'll just have to see. Maybe in not that many years from now, somebody will actually go and visit the Falcon 9 crater and see how much of the second stage survived. I'm going to guess not that much. Under 21 minutes now, continuing through the countdown. Sawyer, we haven't got any visual indications so far, but fingers crossed in 10 seconds' time, that'll change.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to tell just based off of the conditions today and the heat haze and all of that. There's a lot of things working against us with these day launches. But what we do see there, looks like right behind the bush there, that does appear to be the 20-minute vent. Yes, it is. So that means that they have been fueling all this time. And in fact, that means they are done loading up the RP1 on stage 2. So now they're going to thermally condition the line there to get ready to transition from a closer to ambient temperature RP1 to the super chilled liquid oxygen that is about to run through it. And that should happen in about 4 minutes from now. So once that vent disappears, they'll be loading liquid oxygen or LOX onto stage 2. Meanwhile, stage 1 continuing its liquid oxygen and RP1 loads as we speak.
Wonderful, wonderful news. Of course, these atmospheric conditions kind of making the vents kind of slump down through the tower there, but thankfully we could see it there, just barely through the beautiful heat haze provided to us by the wonderful Florida weather this morning, approaching about 40 minutes away from noon. Redman811 is asking, with marine assets occupied with Ship 40, is landing in the Indian Ocean a no-go for the next flight? Do they have assets near Hawaii? I'm going to say that they charter most, if not all, of those assets in. So I'm sure there'll be more boats that they can charter should the boats currently wrapped up with Ship 40 continue to be wrapped up with Ship 40. I mean, the vessel that was on station for the landing on the previous flight was a different vessel than the vessel that was on station for Flight 12. So I'm not sure whether that is actually going to be a constraint that they'll be limited by. And I'm sure there are plenty of vessels in the Indian Ocean area which SpaceX could charter in an instant.
It'll also be interesting to see where they do end up splashing down. Like you pointed out, will be the Indian Ocean. I know SpaceX has also talked about being near Hawaii or near Chile, especially given that this is an operational deployment mission. for the first Starlink V3s to stay in space. So we'll see what they end up doing for the trajectory, and we'll see once they start putting out closures and NOTAMs and not Mars. But I think we're still about a week away from seeing anything like that.
Absolutely. We are keeping all of our eyes peeled to see when the first notices do come in, because those are the initial indication of when the launch may happen. But might be sooner than you think, because, you know, that 1 month turnaround has been talked about so much online. And, well, we've got one static fire checked off already. Fingers crossed another one coming up with all 6 engines in the not too distant future. And then hopefully the booster will do its static fire and we can get a wonderful 14th launch of an integrated Starship stack. But for now, the launch which we should be putting most attention onto is, of course, Starlink Group 10-39, which is undergoing fueling as we speak. 17 minutes from now is when the launch is scheduled. And we'll continue counting down throughout these last few minutes. Speaking of which, Amy is asking, what is the trajectory for this launch? Alex, I'll give this one to you.
Yeah, so for launch, it's going to be heading out northeast, and we can see there we go. That is the different launch, and sort of like the aerial and marine hazard zones for launch and for the landing, and of course the splashdown for the fairing halves for this launch as well. So you can see it goes northeast. If you are up the coast of the US, well, it's daylight, so you may not see much, but might try. I mean, you never lose anything trying. If you see it, good. You saw a rocket launch. If you didn't, well, try next time. There's many of these launches anyways, so you have plenty of chances. And so, yeah, you can see there northeast. Then the second stage will get into orbit, do 2 different burns, one for the initial insertion into a parking orbit, and then the second one to circularize the orbit. Then they'll be doing basically the satellite deployment and hopefully also getting that deorbit burn as well. I say hopefully because sometimes it doesn't work. Very rare, but sometimes it doesn't work. And so that'll be the re-entry corridor for that second stage. Will they be disposing? That second stage is not reusable. It's not like the first stage. The second stage of Falcon 9 gets expended. So it's going to be re-entering there south of Australia. The first stage, as I mentioned before, just a few seconds ago, it's reusable. And so it's going to be landing on a Shortfall of Gravitas, also out there to the northeast, basically on its 30th landing, which is crazy to say that, you know, there's another booster already about to do its 30th launch. It will be the 6th booster overall to complete 30 or more flights in general. And so, you know, getting more old boosters into the list. And yeah, on the other hand, the fairing halves as well, they're going to be recovered. They're going to be splashing down in the Atlantic Ocean, and those are going to be recovered by Doug. So yeah, that's basically the hardware fate for this mission.
Indeed. And some of those, should I read them all out? I have intrusive thoughts to read out all of the different missions that this booster has done so far.
Oh, jeez.
I think let's do it. We've got plenty of time to fill. I'm going to do it. Okay, so it started life off with crew. Let's put it on screen as well. There we go. Started life off with Crew 6 back in March 2023. Then a month later, they launched O3B mPOWER 3 and 4. And then a month after that, launched Starlink Group 6-4. Swiftly followed by Starlink Group 6-8, Starlink Group 6-16, Starlink Group 6-31, USSF 124, Starlink Group 6-46, Starlink Group 6-53, Starlink Group 6-60, Starlink Group 10-2, Starlink Group 10-6, BlueBird 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which was an RTLS coming back to LZ1. We then had Starlink Group 10-13, Starlink Group 6-76, Starlink Group 12-6, Starlink Group 12-9, Starlink Group 12-16, Starlink Group 6-72, Starlink Group 6-84, Starlink Group 12-26, Starlink Group 10-26, Nusantara Lima, there we go, get it right, Ryan. Starlink Group 6-85, Starlink Group 6-97, Starlink Group 10-41, Starlink Group 10-62, Starlink Group 10-47, the Starfall Demo mission, and finally Starlink Group 10-39. Wasn't that hard, was it?
No, I think some gray hairs grew in, but other than that, no.
This list of flights that you see there on screen, I actually collect these. I'm sure Ryan read that from Next Space Flight, which
Yes,
you
I
can
did.
also use to check on these boosters' past manifest. But I used to do it like just all the missions in one single line, right? But after we started covering like flights beyond 15 flights and boosters like in their 20s and things like that, I started saying, you know what, I'm going to split this. The Starlink missions on one side, like just one single line, although it's already taken like 3 different lines there, you can see. And then the past customer missions, it's like a different item as well. And yeah, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 customer missions, although one of them was technically an internal launch, but non-Starlink mission. How about that? And then a bunch of Starlink missions, basically. So yeah, it's quite a lot.
Absolutely. And hopefully with many, many more to come. Kobe, thank you for your support as well. Very grateful to everybody supporting the stream as we continue to count down for launch. Under 12 minutes to go now. Sawyer, what are going to be the next events coming up to look out for in the final 10 minutes of the countdown?
Yeah, so a lot of it we won't really see until we get to about the 5-minute mark, but the next major event that we'll expect will be the engine chill down, where they thermally condition those 9 Merlin 1D engines and get them ready for what they're about to experience in flight with all of the heat and gas and things that will be coming out the backside of the rocket as intended. So after the engine chill, the next big thing will be retracting the strongback, which it's always hard to see with this view because they built the crew access tower there, but behind it there's a metallic structure. It's the transporter erector. That's what they use to roll it out of the horizontal integration facility, raise it vertical. That also has all of the lines that connect the data, the fueling, thermal conditioning for the payloads, things like that. Boy, thermal conditioning apparently is my word of the day, or phrase of the day. But it does all of that. That will lean back about 1.8 degrees before throwing all the way back at launch. So that starts leaning back. That's also when we get to wrapping up of all of those prop loads of the liquid oxygen and the RP-1. Hopefully at 1 minute to go, that is when Falcon 9 will enter startup, when the onboard computers take control of the count and those tanks will pressurize to flight levels. And if all is go, then at T-minus 45 seconds, the launch director would verify go for launch. So all of that to come. But yeah, the next major thing will be in about 3 minutes and 20 seconds from now, as you can see counting down there. And that's the engine chill, which is hard to see even when you don't have giant bushes blocking the view. Which, yeah, NASA, if you want to trim those, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we were talking about mowing the lawn earlier in the stream. I mean, they could definitely cut some of those bushes down slightly and give us a better view over to Slick 40. Or, I don't know, allow us to have a massive 50-foot tall tripod and get a great view over. But maybe the former is a more realistic solution than the latter. Anyways, we are under 10 minutes now. And, it's not, depending on who you are, it's not a great time of year. Or if you love going back to school, it's a great time of year because it, of course, is the time of year when we get ready to go back to school. And we don't talk about it that often, but we do have a kids section at shop.nasaspaceflight.com with various designs in the kids' sizes. I'm not sure if the baby onesie is exactly, go back to school, but, start them early. Get them hooked on spaceflight. You can see there our Artemis 2 clerk designs in the children's sizes, as well as the awesome Flight 10 patch for Starship with the Phoenix there rising from the ashes. Falcon Heavy design as well in there. Plenty of different designs in the children's sizes there. So if you want to get out your kids in your favorite spaceflight swag, shop.nasaspaceflight.com is the place to be.
Look cool going back to school.
That's much better than my tagline. Well done, Sawyer.
Thank you.
8.5 minutes to go until launch. One question in here from Dino. They're asking, what do these Starlink mission numbers mean? Of course, 10-39, Alex. What is 10 and what is 39?
Well, it refers to the different So the first number, it refers to the different kind of missions, if you can think about that in that sense, where, group 1 or group 2 or group 3, each of the groups is sort of like a different kind of trajectory or different kind of satellite that is being launched, a different location even. So you've got different groups just based on that. Then the second number indicates the mission number inside of that group. So you have, I don't know, if you can imagine internally you were to have from 1 to 100 or maybe more than that, then you assign a number to the specific mission in particular. This one just happened to be mission 39 of group 10, but it doesn't mean that it is the 39th flight of group 10. It's actually the 59th, because there's been a few others as well, and so they sometimes jump around in these numbers as well. But it's sort of like we always say, it's sort of like the shuttle back in the day where they used to do a few missions out of order with the numbers and whatnot, but it doesn't make them less of a mission, I guess. It's just that first number, type of mission, and the second one is just the number of mission, but not the order of the mission in particular. It's just mission number.
Indeed. And I've also just been reliably informed by DAS that if there is a shop design that we don't have in kid sizes on the shop, but you want it in kid sizes on the shop, then do message the shop, because you can do that on the shop. You can message the shop, and we'll see what we can do. So fun fact for you there. If there is a design that you want that isn't currently available, we'll see if we can get that available for you. There you go. Snoozer is asking how many Falcon 9 boosters are currently in circulation. That's a great question that I have no idea the answer to.
It's a bit over 20 right now.
Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. A little over 20, yeah.
And maybe one final question before we get into the very spicy end of the countdown. Resisto Jet is asking, why is the strongback called a strongback? That's another great question. My assumption would be because it's strong and it holds up the back of the rocket, but I don't actually know.
I haven't heard any other reason specifically. Again, for the longest time, it was just the TE, the Transporter Erector. In fact, at one point it was the TEL, the Transporter Erector Launcher, but then they dropped the L and then they dropped the TE part and went for strongback. So I'm not entirely sure of why they changed the nomenclature of it or what it's supposed to mean. But unless, Alex, you know some other SpaceX lore that I don't know the true rhyme or reason of it.
I think it's just the name in the industry for this kind of structure that they use. Like other industries use a very similar sort of, I don't know, like a sort of steel grid kind of thing, right? That you sometimes use to erect stuff, and you sometimes just call it strongback. It's usually the name that's used in this kind of industry. I guess I wouldn't say it was even a coin name by SpaceX. It was just there.
Someone is going to have to do a deep dive into the etymology of strongback. Speaking of which, we are approaching strongback retract. Sawyer, this is going to fall back just a little bit to begin with. Is it starting? I can't tell.
Yep. The clamps, you can see they're starting to open underneath the fairing half there. And now it will lean back to 1.8 degrees, which I know it seems like such a random, arbitrary number, but it's enough to just start to be out of the way while still have all of the lines that are connected to the rocket attached. And then once it lifts off, all of those lines and cables and tubes and everything retract super quick, and that goes along with the TE itself. So that way, if it gets super roasty toasty and you need to replace the cable, you're only replacing a tiny amount of it rather than a super long one, and allows for quicker turnaround times that they've previously been doing here, at least, at Slick 40.
And there you go. I was going to say that we were getting some wonderful views there of the background and the different pads and facilities at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. But unfortunately, SpaceX decided that was the perfect time to run an advertisement. So fingers crossed we get that view again shortly. We will not run an advertisement. We will keep the rocket fully on screen for you as we now progress beyond T-minus 3 minutes and 20 seconds with that strong back now starting to fall away ever so slightly from Falcon 9. But just for a moment. Just for a couple of degrees before they go the full way at liftoff. 3 minutes to go now in the countdown. Continuing to hear that perfectly normal venting from Slick 40, and that is liquid oxygen load complete on the first stage of Falcon 9. Of course, Sawyer, we're going to have some multiple things happening in rapid succession over the final 60 seconds of the countdown.
Absolutely, yes. We get the final propellant loads wrapping up on the vehicle with the liquid oxygen and the RP-1. And you can see there along the timeline, we're already continuing there with the Stage 1 LOX load wrapping up. Should just be coming up next on Stage 2 LOX load wrapping up. And then once that happens at about 90 seconds to go, we'll see a big vent from both the strongback and the area around the pad as they do the gas vent closeout, purge all the lines of any remaining propellants or gases or stuff that could be a hazard if it's still floating around when you light those 9 engines. Then at 1 minute, they will pressurize the tanks to flight level, and the Falcon 9 rocket itself will take over control of the count, entering startup, and hopefully we get the go for launch at T-minus 45 seconds.
And there you go, as we just heard, Stage 2 liquid oxygen load has just wrapped up as well, which is great news as we cross under T-minus 1 minute and 45 seconds. You see that big vent there over just behind the bushes on the right-hand side, next to the crew access tower there. 90 seconds to go until launch. Everything looking good
Ground gas closeouts
for the moment. And those were the closeouts Sawyer was mentioning. Can hear them. Quite loud.
Always cool to hear them.
Making themselves known. Standing by for confirmation that we are go for launch from the launch director. Should be getting that within the next few seconds. We are in startup. Next up will be that go for launch call from the launch director.
Launch director, go for launch.
And that is what we want to hear. T-minus 35 seconds. And Falcon 9 is go for launch with Starlink Group 10-39. Unfortunately, thanks to the Floridian heat haze this morning, the ignition sequence is going to be pretty much impossible to see from our long-range tracking views, but launch will become very apparent when the
vehicle... It looks like we have a hold, by the way.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. T-minus 28 seconds.
And a reminder, Falcon 9 cannot hold. So once it's fully loaded, so at this point, that very likely means that is the end of today's launch attempt. Still waiting to hear what happened, though.
And the launch director did give the go for launch, so that's on.
So there had to have been some automated system, most likely, that triggered it, right? Because at that point, there's very few things that they'll actually manually stop for in mission control. They still can, but there's fewer things than would be on the automated side, right?
No words there.
One thing that does happen with a Falcon 9 scrub is the secret shop opens. So the scrub shirt is now available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Falcon 9 not going anywhere today. Look, I said ignition will be impossible to see. Turns out it was impossible to see because it should have already happened by now. But there we go. Falcon 9 staying on the ground. We will stand by to see if we get any sort of language from SpaceX whatsoever. But as you can see there on the screen, they wrapped up coverage without an explanation very rapidly after calling that hold. And that is a scrub of Falcon 9 Starlink Group 10-39 for today, which is unfortunate, not what we want to see. We always want to end the stream with a beautiful rocket launch. But, sometimes it's better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air than in the air wishing you are on the ground. Obviously, some automated something in the computer saw something not good and kicked the vehicle out of the countdown before launch.
Darn.
But there you go. If you want to go on the secret shop, that is available now at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I watched the whole stream. And all I got was a Falcon 9 scrap. Secret shop open for the next 6 hours, 18 minutes, and 40 seconds.
Sorry, I had to do that.
Sad trombone. It's fine. I guess we'll see if they end up trying again for tomorrow or if they wait, depending on what the issue was. It's worth noting that the weather forecast, if they do try for tomorrow, is identical to what it was today, where it was 80% favorable in the beginning of the window, decreasing to 40% as the window goes on, with the concerns being the cumulus cloud rule, the anvil clouds rule, and surface electric fields rule. Basically, the concern is Florida afternoon showers in August.
Indeed. Well, there you go. That timer is counting down until the secret shop will close. It's a secret shop for a reason. So if you do want to get some Falcon 9 scrub merch, which is, not available too often, shop.nasaspaceflight.com, go to the secret shop, and that is available for you.
Well, now I'm sad because I realized somebody actually made the find that one of those fairing halves was flying for 40th flight because it's no longer flying, at least today. Definitely not happening today. But whenever they do try, that will be the 40th flight of one of the fairing halves of this rocket, which is kind of bonkers to think about.
I mean, that Falcon fairing reuse, lots of F's in there, is kind of the unsung hero of the Falcon program. They just kind of churn those things away without much fanfare, and you see them pretty much every launch. They bring both fairings back on the back of Bob or Doug or whichever vessel is supporting the mission. They bring those things back into Port Canaveral, and we see them getting unloaded. Very rarely do they miss. I think we saw one mission miss a couple of weeks ago, but apart from that, I cannot remember the last time that they did not recover both fairing halves, bring those things back, and refly them, because just like reflying the boosters, I think Elon has described them as pallets of money falling from the sky, because quite literally those fairings, it's not like a Kerbal Space Program where you just click your mouse a few times, boom, you've got a beautiful fairing. They are very complicated, complex pieces of engineering, and they cost a lot and a lot of money to manufacture and design. So if you can save yourself a few $1 million per launch, then why not? Let's save yourself a few $1 million. Ethereal Swordsman, thank you very much for your support. They are asking, what is the white tower with the rounded top for? I'm not 100% sure what you were referring to there. Maybe one of the lightning towers? I'm not sure, but there are various towers around Slick 40.
Oh, I think they're referring to the rocket itself.
Oh. Okay. Very funny. Thank you for your support, Ethereal Swordsman. Unfortunately, the rocket is not flying today. Sawyer, thank you so much for joining us for what is eventually a non-launch stream.
I mean, it's a pleasure to hang out with everyone in chat, pleasure to hang out with everyone here in the call and on stream. Not a pleasure to see the rocket still on the launch pad.
Alex, thank you too for joining us for a wonderful not launch stream.
Yeah, I mean, it will have been better with a launch, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? It's what happened, so fine for me. I mean, we'll be back tomorrow again.
Thank you to Jerry and Dee for rolling out and providing us with live views, even if the rocket is, there's Jerry, even if the rocket is not launching today. Hi, Jerry.
Nice merch.
Yep. Nice merch, yeah. Sadly, no rocket launch to see today. Thank you to Jay Keegan for pushing all the buttons and making the stream happen. Thank you to SpaceX for not launching. Thank you to you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And here we go.
There's the deluge. Here's ignition.
Traveling up.
Did it just do a Kerbal?
Back to the moon and beyond.
Put that in the big bag, you know.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, that sure looks like a perfect world.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
We did have an observation.
343 unfolds to go.
It's orange.
Water towers, fly!
Bingo! Right in the center.
Where's Jacqueline? There it is!
That was surreal.
That's not what we want to see.
No!
Oh my god.
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.